Hey guys, it's LS, and today I'm going to be doing a patch 4.20 rundown, basically, of all the notes that we have here, and giving my opinion, talking about the stuff inside of it, and how I think it'll affect stuff in the meta, and then moving forward, just my predictions off the patch. And obviously, since we're getting really close to Season 5, there's going to be a lot of, I don't know, issues that arise, of course, throughout the first few patches, but also the patches that lead into Season 5. So there's going to be that. And in a few weeks from now, probably once Season 5 is officially underway and stuff starts getting settled, I'll probably come out with a tier list or something in relation to a patch note. So you can look forward to that. So without wasting any more time, let's get into that. And before anyone asks about the mask, it's because it's culture in Korea. If you're sick or if you're dealing with anything else, but also I'm having asthma flare-ups, so the mask helps protect against allergens and stuff inside of the air. Okay, alright, so let's get into the patch notes. So we'll just zoom down. Recommended items for all new champions have been updated, stat gain per level. So, okay, basically we're trying to slow that down. Okay, so this stat, basically, all that I'm gathering out of this is all that I'm gathering out of this is obviously it's gonna play an effect to some degree on champions. Level 18, you gain 1700% of your growth statistic. That's not I mean, obviously it's gonna play some effect on some champions, but we're gonna have to wait and see how the mathematics scale out in relation to the meta champions. So this isn't really too big of a concern to me, all this stuff right here. So that's fine. Champion mana regeneration changes. Following mages tanks. Again, these okay, so the AD and the mana regeneration stuff, this is kind of irrelevant right now. Because we can't actually go into this stuff until we see how the game is going to develop and evolve. It would kind of be talking about items, in relation to champions that might be able to use them, but we can't actually know until there's been enough time for everyone to playtest it and everyone to kind of get a feel and everything. Obviously, because this is, however, math and just numbers, you can probably come up with an answer faster rather than later, because numbers are inarguable compared to theory test or playtest, but yeah. Callista, okay, she's in this patch. I've spoken with a lot of Korean friends actually about her, and I think that I don't know. I mean, I guess she'll be an AD carry, but if she's gonna be played in another lane as well, you'll probably end up seeing her in top lane. So that's kind of fine. Maokai, no real update for him. Azir, we think Azir is pretty close from a power level perspective, so we're rebalancing the numbers to smooth out his curve. Early buffs to Q and E should help him take flight, while a nerf to his late game soldiers should clip his wings before he flies too high. Okay, so Conquering Sands, nice magical damage. Okay. W. Base shield amount. Okay, so the shield amount is nice because Azir, he definitely needs some sort of survivability or utility that's not just his R or his leap away. So the increase in shield is nice. The W Arise, I don't really think that's the issue. I think the issue is actually his Q. And by giving him more damage on his Q, I don't really know what Riot's doing in this sense. I feel like Azir's kit is actually one of the most broken the game has ever seen. And I feel like he is probably not going to be balanceable. The issue is that he was so complex at release. It's probably like similar to Syndra syndrome, or like Oriana or whatever, in the sense that like a lot of people just don't understand him and how to play him, and because he's so heavily reliant on teammates, especially if you take him to solo queue, it's not going to really be anything impressive or spectacular. It's going to kind of just look like a dud, and then you end up playing him and he doesn't really do anything. But in competitive player, when teams have enough time to understand him and build around him, because he's a protect the king champion, in the sense that you actually have to devote an entire team to him, as weird as that sounds, which is actually why in Korea specifically, Syndra never really came out in OGN for the longest time, was because Koreans kind of believed that you had to build a team around Syndra. Very similar to like Yasuo or something in some senses. So with that being said, Azir, try as Riot may, he's going to be an unbroken monster. He's not going to be balanceable, in my opinion anyway, just because of his kit. Amumu, boost off his health, crush the jungle and the little mummy dealing eerie effect. Percentage damage, Amumu's going to be big. Beneficiary of the 2015 preseason jungle changes. We're taking preemptive measures to follow scarcities back in the line, but we're still expecting to be one of the stronger junglers heading into the preseason. Okay, so his armor gets reduced. Despair. What? I don't feel like that changed. I feel like that's a... I mean, okay, you can say it's a nerf because of the armor, but realistically, maybe that just makes him he can't do one extra camp. So in reality, like this armor change right here, this doesn't really do anything off the top of my head. I mean, maybe it might to some degree, but I feel like this can be remedied through runes and masteries, and then actually giving despair. Like what? Like. This is pretty gigantic, like this buff. Like this isn't a nerf to Amumu, this is a buff. It's kind of like you just have to learn how to manage it in some ways. So I'm completely fine with this. This is actually a buff to Amumu, in my opinion. So that's actually really good for Amumu players, and it's really sad for Bronzodia players, so we'll see how that turns out. Evelyn. Buffing Evelyn's base armor to survive in the new jungle. You spend less time running around the powerful jungle and more time making your opponent's rage quit. We found she was having too much trouble with the jungle's new difficulty. Turn up to her base stat, should make Evelyn don't perma-stealth and... Okay. That's not terrible. She does need some buffs, but I feel like the issue with Evelyn was that a lot of people kind of figured out how to play against her, and warding became much more, I guess, prominent, especially in the pro scene across all regions. And she was such a monster for such a long period of time that it was kind of like she had so much attention on her. And even though she had so much attention, she was still actually a viable pick. The issue is that the meta does not support her submarine playstyle, or her, just like, what she can offer to 2v2s and 3v3s currently. But Season 5, again, I'm not a psychic, so... I can't know exactly, what the champion pools and everything are going to be yet, because if you looked at Season 3 into Season 4, if you were to tell me that Lulu would have been mid, and Oriana, and AP Nidalee, and, all those assassins like Zed, Talon, and, the bruiser mids and everything would have been gone for 8 months out of the year, I wouldn't have believed it, but they were, so, we can't totally know yet exactly, so maybe Evelyn will have utility again. But her problems lay way deeper than her base armor and other stats here. So, Fiora. Sky's favorite champion. Okay. Well, it's a little weird to have enough charge to their overwhelming synergy with the core item. I'm not Ravenous Hydra. So you cast the timer, let's her. Okay. Blade Wall displays physical damage. Technically a bug fix. Okay, so same target. She just became a monster in lane. Like, okay, so this kind of scares me. All right. Now, some people might wonder, why was Riven seen as a jungle champion in NA in Europe? Okay, And why couldn't NA in Europe really play Rengar too much except for Impaler, or Shook to a degree? Like watching solo queue or whatever. For the most part, most NA junglers and European junglers, they had I guess like a diversity in terms of Korean junglers. Obviously, they would share the same like three kings, being Lee Sin, Elise, Rengar, Lee Sin, Elise, and Kha'Zix. But for the most part, like stuff like this, what I'm trying to get at is stuff like this. The single target stuff versus the AoE target stuff, this isn't the issue. Like, and the reason that I use Riven as an example is because Riven, we saw her played to a really great ability, actually, in EU LCS. And she also is seen as a solo queue monster, as a jungler. But the reason that you don't see her in the highest levels of competition in the world is because of what makes her okay as a jungler is counteracted by proper team play, or it's countered by basically everyone being on the same page and everyone having a rough idea of what to do in what situation. And Fiora kind of falls under that similar principle. It's kind of like why you don't see Master Yi in the pro circuit, is because, yeah, he'll dominate solo queue. You can play Master Yi all the way up into Challenger or something. But if you take him into a team setting, it's really common knowledge that every player knows how to handle him and shut him down. Fiora falls victim, sort of, to the same extent as like Riven and Master Yi, etc. But giving her this single target steroid, you run the risk of, if Season 5 has some sort of like split push stuff or like, heavy emphasis on split push, or I know that that's not how Season 5's aiming to go because of Drake and the changes to the towers and everything like that, but we don't exactly know. This single target thing is actually really, really bothersome. Because Fiora, in my opinion, is not really actually a bad champion. She suffers from the Yi and Riven, etc. syndrome, where she's easily manageable, similar to like Udyr or something as a jungler. So the ability to be manipulated inside of a team fight is actually why some champions never see pro play. But giving this to Fiora, I don't know, like, I don't know. I feel like this is actually like a giant buff. So we'll see how it turns out, but yeah. Okay, Gnar. Jesus. Gnar's become quite the handful when it comes to bullying potential. Sweeping changes to his early game basis should give him a bit of a timeout. Get it? During the laning phase. While buffs to Mega Gnar's late game scaling means you probably still wouldn't like him while he's angry in general. Wow. Okay. That's... what? Okay. Passive Rage Gene. Huh? Okay. Once, like, okay, so first off, the base health regeneration, that's really bothersome. Because you don't want to do to Gnar what happened to Riven a long time ago, where you just kind of splice it. But Gnar actually is in a place where he's on the very powerful spectrum, and I'm not totally sure this will hinder him. But, hold on, let's see. Boomerang damage with 55, I mean, that, okay. Like, as if that matters. It's not Morgana's Q. Like, yeah, let's balance Gnar's boomerang, but not touch Morgana's fucking truck. Okay, and then Boulder Toss. Okay, so they buffed the total AD, but that's not good. I mean, like, this probably will look good to some players that don't know how to build Gnar, and what ends up happening is, like, you end up building him with, like, AD items or something, or, like, hybrid, like Hex Drinker, Trinity Force, like Blade of the Ruin King stuff, and like this kind of can look good, but in reality, Gnar's not supposed to be built that way just because of how his kit works and how he works as a champion. So these stats are basically pointless. This is basically like, you know, fuck it, just give Gnar plus 100% AP ratios, and it doesn't actually matter because he will never logically be played that way. This is kind of like me reading something like saying Pantheon's ult now has a 300% AP ratio. It doesn't actually matter, but you know, some people will say that it matters to some degree, but it won't because he simply can't be played this way if you actually want him to be viable. Gnar's current obvious best build is going to be Trinity Force into straight on tank. And the reasoning for that is obviously because of his base stats, but also because of how he plays out the laning phase, how he maneuvers himself throughout team fights, and basically like just how his kit works overall. So, okay, hyper base damage. This is good though, I guess. But anyways, I feel like Gnar got this is a heavy nerf to Gnar. There's no buffs here. There's actually 0 buffs. So Gnar, heavy nerf. Okay, Heimerdinger. Previously, the Dinger got all of his health regen stats from his passive in lieu of general. Base regeneration, 0. Oh, wow, okay. I don't have, like, the ability. I'm not going to obviously rip open the math on this, like, during this video, but this, again, it's just going to come down to base stuff. But this is kind of pointless because Heimerdinger is not even going to see pro play, so don't really care. Katarina, this is the Death Lotus nerf, right? Katarina's been on a tier recently rising near permanent ban status across various regions. I don't know where that information's really coming from. I mean, unless it's referring to solo queue, because in team play, Katarina, again, this goes back to the Yi, Riven, you know, Udyr, like, other type champions like that, reference, in the sense that, like, yeah, this may really suck for solo queue, but it doesn't really affect pro play, and I guess to the same degree, it stays the same. Like, this does not affect pro play. These damage changes, this doesn't touch pro play, okay? And by the time something would affect pro play, it's already actually just fine. So, like, everything will be fine here. This will just basically affect Elo boosters using Katarina, or like Katarina mains or Katarina one-trick ponies and stuff that use her. Like, that small amount of damage is actually really, I guess, prevalent inside a solo queue, because you're on your own for the majority of the game and that. And every little thing matters inside a solo queue, whereas in team play, like, stuff like this is much more manageable. So, Kha'Zix. Void Spike. Ooh. 2 seconds. Wow. I mean, it's a nerf, but this isn't going to break him. It's kind of like when everyone cried when Elise got those, like, nerfs, but then she still was in pro play for months. This doesn't do anything to him. Okay. Lee Sin. Base armor and base health regeneration are going down slightly. Oh, yeah, let's just keep nursing. Okay, good. Great. All right. Not that I really care, but, like, Lee Sin's, like, the Orianna of jungle, or he's the Thresh of jungle. You know, like, those champions are in such a nice, beautiful place because they actually have a lot of counterplay against them, and people don't realize that. But they're also so rewarding if you are significantly better than your opponent. In my opinion, Riot never should have touched Lee, like, patches ago. Even when he was, like, constantly picked, constantly, everything. He has his innate problems with his scaling, and he has his innate problems with how he has to itemize as a champion in relation to being played inside of the jungle. And when you keep doing stuff like this to him, it's kind of like, I don't know, it's overkill. Like, this is unnecessary at this point. Like, Lee didn't need all these nerfs. And I'm saying that knowing that he is, for the last, like, 2 years or something, top 3, jungler. So, yeah. Ramus. Ramus uptime between ganks would need. This is a nice nerf, but I kind of don't think that it was, like, needed. With the existence of double AP comp teams and without knowing how exactly the meta was going to change inside of the jungle or top lane or mid lane or anything at all, I felt like it's too early to kind of nerf Rammus, even though he did start to see a little bit of popularity. I think they jumped the gun too early, because these nerfs are pretty, that's gigantic. Like, 6 seconds added at rank 1, like, ugh. Puncturing taunt. It doesn't affect his like single target ganks, but it affects an extended gank, and it affects contestants. So that's pretty big. And then the armor shred. This is actually gigantic. People don't realize how big this is. So that kind of sucks. Scion. I kind of like don't really care. Like I guess like, you know, it's still too early to tell with Scion because people haven't really found out exactly if he does fit anywhere. So this is kind of okay for him, but it's too early to tell because he's so irrelevant right now. Sona's overall sustain should be lower, especially in cases where it significantly trades Valor. I feel like this is kind of a pointless nerf. Like, Sona only has some utility in very, very specific team comps. She's kind of a unique pick, and she's most often used as a counter pick right now, with how the meta is and how, like, everyone's playing the game currently. So nerfing her when she's only viable in a handful of situations seems a little overkill to me. But maybe this has, like, solo queue in mind, but games shouldn't be balanced around solo queue. I mean, it can to a certain degree, but not like this. Like, that's just my opinion. And I also kind of don't think that it's totally based around solo queue, because if we saw earlier about the Katarina solo queue thing, we see Sona does not revert to live. So I guess it's not just about solo queue. That's just my opinion, though. Okay, Soraka. Yes. All right, well. Cast rain. Okay. Base attack damage. This hurts her really big. People don't seem to understand how big, because Soraka is actually one of the very few ranged supports that actually does get pretty annoying with her pokes, especially with how the supports might change in Season 5. And then on top of that, something that people weren't getting to see, because we're in the off-season right now, is how much of a monster or like Leviathan she is, and she just simply doesn't enable picks like Zed and Talon and Yasuo and other stuff without like the enemy having picked their support first. So Soraka is in a pretty unique situation, so nerfs do have to come her way. W, this is actually a gigantic buff. I felt like W could have remained untouched because it kind of puts Soraka in a counterplay situation because she has to be so close to you. And then Equinox, this is really actually fair because her E is really, really, really big. Obviously, you have to time it right, but it kind of reverts back to live value anyway. And when you're running CDR and stuff, this is actually kind of balanced because the silence is so powerful. People are really underestimating how strong Soraka is right now. So these are pretty fair. Warwick. This is, again, solo queue related. Yeah. Okay, this is solo queue related. This isn't going to affect pro play, again, because we see that the values remain the same. And so that's able to be managed by pro players and stuff. But obviously the solo queue, this is actually OP, the 90-second stuff. Because it basically means that Warwick can standardly clear 3 camps and regank a lane, which actually works out perfectly with how the current jungle was set up. However, with the new jungle, I again kind of feel like you're like Riot's jumping the gun. Like, you shouldn't be touching junglers right away unless there is a clear emergency for touching them. Because like Warwick, maybe with how the new jungle is played out, he actually doesn't use this 90 as often as you'd like, or maybe he isn't played the same exact way. I mean, ultimately at the end of the day, it's not going to be absolutely game shattering, but it could be to his solo queue play, but I don't think it's going to matter. Okay. Texture, rebalance, okay. Early game, kill and assist with the I decided to revert the unpopular. Sick. This is actually beautiful. This puts so much more emphasis on early game plays, and it basically, I really like this. I really like this. It puts so much more emphasis on early game plays, and it enables teams that have a much stronger mental early game and a much like smarter opening to, you know, kind of show their dominance. So that's really nice. So I'm actually really happy with this. Fountain regeneration. Healing of... This actually makes for defending a lot better. This actually makes defending a lot better. For people that can't see that, if you have home guards and stuff, etc., you're able to kind of move out there quicker. Because you could regenerate half your health and then move off the fountain when normally the tick from the initial current live value wouldn't have completed. So this is actually a buff. It's a pretty gigantic buff, actually, for defending Nexus. But it'll only come into play in a very like high-pressure situations, so it's kind of okay. Death timers. 35 minutes. Death timers no scale up. Cap. Huh? No! What? 2%. Actually, oh, okay, I'm sorry, I was reading that wrong. Okay, this is really good. I like this. I like that mistakes will now kind of be, they'll be punished even further. So actually, I really like this. Obviously, it'll suck for some people. It's an indirect nerf to Karthus, but that doesn't really matter too much. So this is actually good. Opinions, minions, and... Minions, objectives, global buffs. Okay. Health regeneration. Okay. Tax. Jeez. Okay. So, I guess ultimately this won't affect like kind of how it's outlining here, like the Drindamir, you know, split push thing. It'll make it so that you're able to defend against them, but it will not make it so that you can just neglect them. So that's actually kind of nice. And this is actually fine in my opinion. It basically means that the split pusher, Zed, Trindamir, Yi, or whatever, they have to be much more strategic with how they have to go about it, and they can't just kind of do it on their own. It does really suck though for Searches, because now his Gnosis can't just walk through the base. So they indirectly nerfed a Twitch TV streamer, so that sucks. Okay. Inner turrets. This is stupid. I think I saw something on this earlier. Like, giving a shield like this at the beginning of the game or something, it's really nonsensical, because it probably actually will enable some champions that have really rough early game levels to go into the mid lane kind of unscathed, or not even just mid, but like, I think I don't like this change at all. What's Righteous Glory? Oh, okay, Righteous Glory. Unique passive. Upon leveling up. Oh, wow. Oh, let me get to that later. Wow, okay. Okay, that's really nice. Okay, but I don't like the shield, but Righteous Glory looks nice. Respawn time at the beginning of the... Nice! Nice, I really like this. I like this. You should actually be rewarded more for taking an inhibitor. So, I like this a lot. So, overall, I like some of the changes that are being done to the towers and the inhibitors and the death timers and stuff. Because it basically rewards teams that are more strategically versed than their opponents in terms of like mid to late game picks and rotational play. So, I really like how the direction that it's moving. It's definitely much more chess-like. Auto turrets. These are like mathematics that are obviously going to be important, but it's not, you know, important for me to go over that right now inside of this video. Cannon minions. Oh, this is really nice. This is really, really, really nice. Actually, I like this. It kind of speeds up the game to some extent, and it also, again, promotes the need for proper rotational play. So that's really good. Baron spawn timer. Baron. I don't know. I don't think this really affects anything. Like, those really gross 16, 17-minute Barons that you would sometimes see were because of catastrophic mistakes that the enemy team made. And getting a 17-minute Baron was kind of like the nail in the coffin. But also, in some ways, the fact that Baron was offered so early also was kind of neat in some games because it was actually, like, the only hope a team might have because of how far they fell behind in the early game. So the 20-minute thing, I don't know how I feel about it, but we'll see. Killing Baron Nashor grants a buff called. It's 40 attack power in time. Huh? Okay, so it makes Baron's siege that much bigger. What? Like, big things like this, okay, like, there's no way to know exactly how it's going to turn out until we start seeing it over the course of, like, hundreds of games or something. Like, not even hundreds, obviously, thousands, because of how, you know, popular League is, but you get what I'm saying. Changes like this, like, I'm fully trusting Riot's ability to kind of tune and tweak anything that's really out of hand. Similar to how, like, in Season 3 into Season 4, there was the Warmogs and Black Cleaver. I believe Monte Cristo said something similar about this on Twitter recently, so I kind of feel the same way. The Dragon reward, okay, it doesn't grant global gold, so that means that there is going to be actually some rotational plays that involve, like, top lane and bottom lane now in relation to Drake. The other thing that I'm thinking about this without actually seeing how games are going to be played is it actually indirectly affects lane swaps to some extent. And when I say lane swaps, I mean, like, the jungler system that's like the buddy system, but we don't even know if that'll actually exist yet because the jungle's been entirely morphed. But it could affect early game, like level 3, level 4, level 5 lane swap stuff because of how the dragon is now, so don't know yet. Crest of Cinders. While Blue is pretty broad in the power, gives sustain wave clear siege. Okay, Crest of Cinders now heals its 1% of their maximum health every... Huh? Oh, these are all the jungle changes. I'm actually gonna just make a entire video on this. Okay, so these are all the jungle changes. So I'll just make an entire video on this because I actually myself have to go and break all this stuff down, like mathematically, but also in terms of just like junglers. Yeah, okay. Okay, so elixirs. Okay, so I'll look at all these items. Like, I'll probably actually make another video in coming days or something, or maybe even like a week, and I'll go over all the items and stuff. I basically just wanted to hit the patch notes on the champions and the core play that's going to be coming into immediate effect, but the itemizations and the junglers themselves are kind of up in the air, so we're going to have to see how everything goes. More mogs. But, yeah. Train vest. Oh. That's kind of neat. That's kind of neat. Okay. This actually sucks. There was like a hidden op strategy actually for some top laners and mid laners. Well, not mid laner really, but there was something I'm not going to talk about it in this video, but this actually nerfs it. Some of the stuff that I'm reading right here. So, okay. Yep. Oh wow. Wait, what? Okay, the removal of that kind of sucks. No, wait, what? Okay. Magi's Soul Stealer now starts with 5. Now loses... Oh, wow. Okay, that's really risky. Sword of the Occult. This isn't fair. Okay, so Sword of the Occult, something I was talking about is, it's very, very funny to me how most of the stacking items, the AP gives considerably more than the AD, except I guess in Vygar versus Nasus's case. But what I mean by that is, AP is able to consistently be used from a distance on almost all of the champions that do use it, okay? And when Riot talks about not being able to balance a game around, or balance a champion around an item, like kind of how they mentioned in this same exact patch, the Fiora thing, it's a little bothersome to me that they don't think about Magi's and Sword of the Occult. And you can argue that these are not pro items or something, but they could be. But Sword of the Occult needs to actually give more base AD than Magi's just because of how the item works. And also because of the champions that can use it or benefit from it. It's not the same, so you can't treat them like they're the same. I get that they're kind of just like side quest items that are like novelty, but they actually do have some usage. And something that like some people talked about, kind of, there was this Worlds game, I think, and Dade bought Magi's when he was so far behind, and a lot of people criticized him and said he was going on tilt and all these other things. When in reality, there's actually a very, solid theory behind why he did that and also why it's actually acceptable. If at any point you're so far behind that the only chance for you to come back would mean your opponents getting consistently outplayed numerous times in a row, but also them making lots of mistakes rather than you outplaying them in some cases as well, then Magi's would further accelerate that for you, and it would let you kind of teleport forward faster, if that makes sense. So in some cases, Magi's actually can be purchased as a I'm really far behind item. And it can also be purchased as a I'm really far ahead item. Usually it can't be purchased anywhere in between, but yeah. So, okay. So it looks like that's everything for the patch notes. Anyways, like I said, after I begin to break down and dissect the new jungle and the new junglers and the mathematics and everything behind everything, you'll probably see a video out of me, so expect that in the next few weeks. But in the meantime, I will probably come out with a tier list right off the bat, which is probably just going to be the popular opinion of the solo queue and the pro players across numerous regions, and then my explanation for it, and then my reasoning and theory behind it. And again, at the end of the day, it'll just be opinion. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave me comments in the stuff below. Add me on Facebook. Add me on any of the social medias that you see up here, and ask me questions. And if you have any recommendations for what I can do for videos like this, or anything that you would like me to talk about in videos like this, then let me know, and I can try to do that, okay? So I think that's it, okay? Alright, bye guys!